Welcome to another episode of Cyrus's podcast. Today I have my good friend Michael Pennisi. What's up, bro?
What's up, brother?
How's it going?
How you doing? Doing well.
Hey, so today I want to talk to you a little bit about. I'm going to go way back to before you and yesterday. We went to dinner, right? Dinner, right? And we went to a place that you used to work at before real estate.
Coppola's.
Yep. Yeah, and for me, that was really cool. So I kind of want to talk about before real estate, getting into real estate, and then where you're at now, and then where you're going, because I've kind of seen all of it, and I know it, and I want to share kind of how that worked, because I'm a big believer in like success leaves clues, and your success is definitely going to leave clues for others. So
love it. Let's do it.
So before real estate, what did you do?
So I mean, I did work in project management, doing some budgeting work.
Yeah.
But the God's honest truth is, I was in college. I studied, international economics all over the world, and I was blessed to be able to do that, and I got a global perspective on life. And, just hopped right into real estate at the age of 21. So
wow.
I didn't really waste any time. I mean, we talked about yesterday, what you were referring to is in high school, I'll tell you 2 jobs. There's really 3 jobs that I had prior to, to the budgeting stuff that I was talking about. My first job was, I coached basketball, and lifelong athlete, loved basketball, loved to coach. So that was something that I did. And I was fortunate to be able to do camps and all that kind of stuff. But that was kind of, just like part-time stuff, more for fun than anything. And really to have counselor, kid camp, battles.
Yeah.
The second thing that I did was, just like side hustles. So, I would mow lawns, and I would, run around with a snowblower and do all that stuff, just trying to make some money. But really what that led me to is I actually started working in landscaping for a couple summers. And I bring it up, and it's actually noteworthy, because it led me to what I did not want to do, which is manual labor. I was busting my ass summer after summer, doing this work. And I mean, it was like waking up at 5:30. They would drop me off at this estate, and it would be like me, a dump truck, a wheelbarrow, and 150 pound blocks, a whole wheelbarrow. I mean, a whole dump truck full of them. And I was like, I was just completely jacked and tan at the end of the summer, but I was like, I need to go to college. So then I need to go into business. So the long and the short of it is those are the 2 things. And then what we alluded to yesterday was, I worked as a waiter for years. And, outside of real estate, waiting on tables was actually my favorite job, because I'm all about people.
Yeah.
And the reality is waiting on tables is service. We serve the public. And I know that sometimes people look at it as a menial job, but the God's honest truth is I made really good money waiting on tables.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I loved it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I wasn't passionate about it to the point that it was a career, but I do think that there were lessons that I learned waiting on tables that are applicable to real estate.
Yeah.
I still treat people with respect. I still lead with customer service. It's a quick story on it that's kind of comical, but I remember there was every day we would add up our total revenue at the end of the night. And there was a waiter that was more experienced than me that worked with me, and every single time we worked, it didn't matter how many tables he had, it didn't matter how big a section, all that stuff, I always wound up with more revenue than he did. And at a certain point, his name was Mark, and at a certain point, Mark was pissed. He was this one night, he was I know I beat you tonight. And lo and behold, I beat him. And he was I don't understand, how does this happen? And I started laughing, and I go, can I walk you through something real quick? And he was yeah. And I go, what do you do when you walk over to a table? He goes, can I take your order? And I said, well, that's where you and I are different. And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, I walk over and I say, hello, my name is Michael. It'd be my pleasure to serve you tonight. How can I help you guys? And it just starts the tone off differently.
Yeah.
And I said, you have to learn how to introduce yourself. You have to learn how to make it personal, because it's not about what they're ordering. It's about you and them.
Yeah.
And if you make it about you and them and make sure you're serving their needs, the rest takes care of itself.
And this is back in high school.
This is high school.
That's amazing. So then you went to business school. You traveled around the world studying business economics, right?
Yeah, international economics in Beijing, China, Shanghai, Xi'an, Florence, Italy.
Wow.
A lot of Europe. Yeah, I mean.
And so then, why did you come back home and get into real estate? Like, was it something that you always wanted to do, or was it?
So, a mixture of answers is the truth of it. My college roommate, like in Italy, him and his father was a longtime broker, and he was like second generation real estate, and him and I were just in alignment. Like he was in my wedding party. He's about to be the godfather of my daughter. Like, love him to death. And the God's honest truth is just like having these conversations with him. I was like, this is for me. Like I could vibe with this industry. So that was part of it. Another big piece of it was just happenstance. Like, I went out and got my real estate license really because I wanted to go into finance. And I was like, you know what? I want to, get capital from the business world and then invest in real estate later in life. And, it was investing in real estate that was like my primary goal.
Yeah.
And the person that I walked into and met with, I connected with her, the broker that I met with, I connected with her, Carolee Jones. She's actually an agent in my office now. We went full circle 20 years later. Love her to death. She was a mentor to me. And the thing is like when I met her, she was like, we don't hire part-time people. And I was like, well, I'll be full-time, like meaning for a couple months while until I started school again.
Yeah.
And I was rookie of the year for my company my first year. I just crushed it like right from the start. And I was like, I'm never going back into corporate America.
Wow.
Like I know what I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I had a pretty good job. I had like $80,000 a year, benefits, like a car, like they paid for all different stuff. And that was entry level. And I knew that there was like, sky's the limit in terms of growth. And I walked away from that for real estate because it was my passion. It was what I love to do. And I knew that I was gonna, do big things in this business.
So now you get in the business, you're like, I'm gonna go full time, yada, yada, yada. You become rookie of the year. And then when did you really scale your business?
So you have to understand the time period to understand how this played out. My first year in real estate I got my license in 2006.
Okay.
And 2007 was like really like the height / the drop in the market, in our market. So I never really got to live through all the great times in real estate, at least back then. I did really well in my first year, and then the market just crashed everywhere. It changed everywhere. It was, the Great Recession. And real estate as I knew it was different, and people were like fleeing the industry. I remember walking into my office one day, there was 20 computers, and every single computer had people that were sitting there on monster.com. And they were looking for jobs.
Wow.
And I don't even think Monster still exists. I don't even know. But every single computer had somebody looking for jobs. That was when like Lehman went under, and it was really a tough market to survive. Yeah. And I can tell you, I was working 80-hour work weeks, like busting my ass in real estate. And I think in 2008, I made $17,000. And in 2009, I made $19,000.
Wow.
And I was working harder than anybody. And it wasn't that I didn't have deals or clients, but I would get like 2 weeks to a closing table and they would let a whole department go. And like all of a sudden it would be like, there would be, the client wouldn't be able to, perform on the mortgage because they didn't have a job because, 100 people that they worked with were all fired at the same time because that was the environment at the time. So I remember I had this there's this moment that I will never forget for my entire life, and it changed everything for my life. I was sitting at my desk and I almost made the decision to quit real estate. I'm not a quitter, that's just not who I am, but it was just like I could have been working at McDonald's and making more money. And I was going into debt, and there was it was just like it was intense, and it didn't look like there was any light at the end of the tunnel. So I sat there, and everything was paper back then, and every deal that I did that fell apart, like I had like a manila folder, like old school real estate, and I would put it on the left-hand side of my desk, and eventually that stack got bigger. And one day I was feeling like defeated, and I was like, I can't believe it. Like I feel like I'm doing everything right here, and it's just not coming together. And so what I did was I sat there in a moment by myself, and I separated every single one of those manila folders by client. And then I added up all the commissions. And I was never all about money. That's just not I was always about people. But this was I just needed to know the potential of what I was doing and was it worth it? And it was $275,000 in commissions. And I was thinking to myself, like, I can't believe that all of these deals were like this close and then life happened.
Yeah.
And I made $19,000.
Wow.
And I was just like, I got to give this another 6 months because I feel like I'm so close.
Yeah.
And that year I made 300,000. And then I doubled and doubled, and like, you know, it just like that was the point in time, like if I look back, and it was like the point in time where I was most vulnerable, the point in time where I almost quit, and it was the pivotal moment that everything changed. And it really just,
I feel like that is so common in so many people's
I agree.
Successful people's lives.
It's stereotypical, but it's so true.
I think about it like there's a meme online or some sort of picture where it's like this guy like digging for gold, and then like digging for gold, and then that's the top, and then the bottom thing is he's still digging, and then he's turned around like giving up.
And there's like a gold nugget right
there. One more thing that he needed to dig.
That's life. That's life. You got to just be persevere and have grit.
Exactly. It's like for me, like as an athlete, I was never the best soccer player. I was just the one that worked harder and kept going.
Can I tell you, I've never told you this before. So I worked harder than anybody. Yeah. I wasn't the best athlete ever, but I just worked my ass off, and like nobody was gonna outwork me.
Yeah.
And so one of the proudest things that I have ever done, like in sports, I've won state championships and MVPs and captains and like all these different things, and all that was awesome, don't get me wrong. But and the team sports, like you obviously want to win championships.
Yeah.
But like on a personal level, the Star Ledger, which is the largest newspaper in New Jersey, named me #1 in the state of New Jersey for all skinned me team. And I was like, that is what I want, because nobody's going to outwork me in the state. And that was me.
And I feel like that's really a true, like there's so many different traits of success and successful people. And that is one of them, is like, how much are you willing to work and push through when nothing's working?
Oh, no doubt.
Right?
I mean, that's
like,
everything.
That perseverance, that's what actually creates success so many times over and over again. And your story is so evident of that.
I'll tell you a quick, I think, I might butcher this book a little bit, but I think it's called Fear and Love and Art, like something along those lines. But they give this great story, and they talk about, essentially it's like you walk into a pottery class, and the professor says he divides the class in half.
Yeah.
Half the room goes to the left, half the room goes to the right, and he says to the side on the left, he says, you guys are going to be graded at the end of the semester by how many pots that you've actually that you've built, like you've made rather. It's like we're going to weigh all the pots, and depending on how many pots you've made, that's going to dictate your grade. And on the right side of the room, we're going to take a look at the perfect pot. We're going to say, what is your best piece of work? Whatever your best piece of work is, that's what we're going to grade you on. And so the semester goes on, and they go through, and at the end of the semester, what turns out is the people that were supposed to make the perfect pot, they sat around and they talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
And it's analysis paralysis, and they weren't like honing the craft. What they were doing is they were trying to decide like how to do it, whereas the people that were just making pots all day long, they created a craft. They understood the skill of making pots, so they made the perfect pot. And the whole point of it is like a lot of times we always think like quality over quantity in business and all that stuff, but sometimes you got to just like get hit in the mouth, and you have to fall on your face. Dude. And you have to go through those challenges, because it sharpens the sword, and you become the expert.
100%. It's like everybody always asks me like, oh, like how have you got to where you're at such a young age and have this much success and yada yada yada. And I always say the same thing. It's like I just went and did it, and I failed 17 times before you started.
That's exactly right.
Period.
That's exactly right. And I think that if you read enough business books and you like study like some of the best minds in history, that's what they did.
Yeah.
Like it's not that they're like these brilliant. Some of them are brilliant, but it's not all of them are brilliant people. Most of these people, they just went out and they failed so many times, but they just didn't quit. They didn't take no as an answer.
Yeah. And
like that to me is the game. Like that's the game of life, not just real estate.
No, 100%. Yeah. And that's like just. Again, success leaves clues. Like so many people listen to oh, I want to learn from here. I only am going to listen to these people. But like the reality is successful people have similar traits. Period.
No doubt. No doubt.
And this is one of those traits. Is like again, how many times? Oh, what is it? It's not how many times you hit somebody or whatever. It's how many times you fall down and get up. What is it?
So it's
the Rocky Balboa.
It's fall 7, rise 8 is essentially what it is. It's a Japanese proverb, but yeah, it's the same thing. And that, Rocky was like, it's how hard you get hit in the mouth. It's like how hard you get up, or
how
something
many times
like that.
you get up. Yeah,
no
it's
doubt.
the same thing. Yeah. Fall 7, rise 8.
Fall 7, rise 8. That's the motto.
I love that.
Yeah.
Freaking love that. Now, okay, so then you've crushed it in real estate. You've been very successful, and then on the real estate transaction side. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about the real estate investment side.
I love it.
Because this is what we nerd out about, right?
You know what? Like, real estate investment is why I got into the business to begin with. And, I love the transaction side. I love sales. I love brokerage. But real estate investment there's so many perks to it. And it just like opens up this whole new world to the way life, should be.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to you a little bit about like kind of my journey in real estate investment. I started out with by the way, the first 8 years I was in real estate, I did not buy a home. Which I talk to people all day long about real estate investment and buying a home and everything else. And it's crazy to me, like I was being a hypocrite is the truth of it. I was being a hypocrite. And it was, I just wasn't prepared to jump in for various different reasons. Eventually I took that leap and it was just game changing. But I bought a single family, bought it on a really nice street, and it was the house that needed everything. And I just put work into it over time. It had a sick backyard. I love the backyard, but it needed tons of money in the backyard. I had to cut down trees and do patios and like all this stuff. But I made it my own. And then I bought another single family home. And a lot of times you invest in what you know, or you should.
Yeah.
And so that was like something that for me was just like, okay, I'm gonna keep buying single family homes. And then just through happenstance, I had, my wife had a, family farm, and there were uncles that were getting out of it, and I winded up saying like, we'll invest in that, and we bought a farm. And it's a working farm. There's literally like a farmer that we rent land to, and there's 3 single family homes, and the single family homes are being rented to like different tenants, and so then we ran with that. But then everything changed, and I'll give credit to my brother-in-law for having the insight. Where we are right now is we're standing on the bridge in Wesley Lake between Asbury Park and Ocean Grove, and behind us is is the Atlantic Ocean and the New Jersey shore. Well, he approached me and he was like, Mike, I had been selling him some investments and working with him, and he had a business partner as well, and he was like, listen, like I found this spot, this bed and breakfast down, it's a block from the beach. I want you to come take a look at it. I was like, I don't know if I'm interested.
Yeah.
But I took the trip, out of respect for him. And, I came down here and we saw this place, and I was like, first of all, like we scoped the spot out, and it was like, it needed everything. Like the sign was crooked. Like, it was like, it just needed some work.
But you shut the door, the sign falls off?
Yeah, it was kind of in that, like the guy we bought it from, really nice man, like, really liked him, and we kind of hit it off. But the truth of it is like the place needed some love. And so what I fell in love with was location and the potential.
Yeah.
And we bought the place, and the other thing is we had walked down to the boardwalk, and we kind of made a left, and there was the Stone Pony summer stage, and there was like a band that was jamming out. And my daughter was like 2 years old, and she was like jumping up and down and like hanging out, and it was just such a cool vibe. And I was like, I just want this as part of my life.
Yeah.
Like, yes, real estate investment's important, but I was like, I could see myself here and like just like being in this environment and everything else. So we bought the place, and we put, we were redoing the place when COVID hit. Oh. So we were like literally mid-construction, and I was freaking out. I was like, we dumped all this money into this spot, and I'm like, hospitality is going to die.
Yeah.
Like, everybody just like, this is like March 2020, like nobody knew it was gonna happen. Everything was shut down. Like, it was a mess. And you know what? Like, that's another one of those moments where you just like, you just see it through.
Yeah.
We finished the project, we got it ready for the summer, and like everything exploded. And it was just like, straight like, up in terms of nobody was going to Europe, nobody was going to the Caribbean, everybody was going to the Jersey Shore. And so it was pretty cool. Like, we just exploded. We did 2.5 times revenue.
Wow.
Like, in our first year, we had the place smoking. And since that point, like, we've bought 2 other spots down here. We own like a 17 unit apartment building. 16-unit apartment building, 17 bedroom. Just bought another bed and breakfast down here. Bought ski rentals upstate.
Wow.
And it's just been building, and like now we're at the point where I'm just trying to buy like 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings a year. We've got the scale that we need.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about real estate investment is the passive income's amazing and all that stuff, but like you also get this perk of like being able to use, it's not a stock. It's not like you can't live in a stock. You can't like, you can't, go to the stock and go a minute to the beach. Like, none of that exists. Like you either get a dividend or you sell the stock. Other than that, it just sits there in an account.
Yeah.
Like, for real estate investment, it's a whole different world because yes, we do short-term rentals. Yes, we make tons of money and, it's cash flow on it. And there's all the perks of like tax benefits and everything else. But beyond all that, we also get to I get to bring my kids here. I get to you're down here, you get to stay at the spot. I'm like, oh yeah, I got a room for you. I don't even have to think about it.
It's freaking
because
awesome.
it's just part of my life now. So we're gonna keep scaling that, and the the long-term strategy is to build in other spots in the country as well.
I love
Just
that.
keep building this out.
So now you've kind of got I say kind of, but I've seen it in action, and I see what you're doing, and I see everything happening. You've got it down to a science.
Yeah,
the system and the process is amazing. You've really got it down to a science. And I want to ask you something. If someone's listening and they want to get into this space, like what do you suggest they start with?
So I'll just tell you some of we talk about lessons you learned and you fall on your face. So when we first started, we were like, oh, we'll just throw it on Airbnb. Airbnb is cool, don't get me wrong. I don't have anything against them, but you want to build the market.
Yeah.
So if you're on one marketplace, which Airbnb is one marketplace, you're not fulfilling the market because there's people that go to Vrbo and there's people that go to Expedia and the million other places that are out there, booking.com. So we started to expand the different booking channels and trying to get direct rentals and all that stuff. And what we realized is none of the calendars link up with one another. So imagine this, somebody books a room on Airbnb and then you have the same room open on Vrbo, you have a problem.
Yeah.
So the scale that we had, we had 12 units going at once.
Wow.
Imagine trying to keep track of all that. It's impossible.
That's
It's impossible. You can't do it, especially when you have such a market like the Jersey Shore where it's constant. You can't, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You need the right software. We talk about with Follow Up Boss, we use a system that all the calendars are integrated into one another. And so when somebody books on, Vrbo, it's updating Expedia.
Wow.
And we don't have to think about that.
Yeah, that's
so the number one
game
step
changer.
is that. The number two is, I don't know about you, but I don't want to meet everybody at the door and hand them a key. And I certainly don't want to pay somebody else to meet them at the door and hand them a key.
Yeah.
So we took all of our locks, and every single lock is a smart lock. So all of our locks, the way our systems are set up, we use a system we use remote lock, but we've switched over time. We used August locks when we first started. No good for us. There are different systems that work better than others, but our locks integrate with our software. So if you book a room right now, what happens is the second you book a room, it'll self-generate a password for the locks, for you, for the time period that you're there, and only for the time period you're there. So if you go to access your room outside, before, you won't get in, after, you won't get in. What it'll also do is as soon as you leave the room for the last time, it'll trigger an alert to our cleaning people to turn the room over. When they turn the room over, they will trigger the option for the next party to get in. So now it's turnkey. I don't touch anything. I don't go to rooms, I don't give keys, I don't have to think about it. We also have automations in terms of our systems, so it'll say here are the check-in instructions. Here are the best restaurants. Here are the, you name it. It's just all built into our systems. Reminders, thanking them. We'll send a message to them the day that they check in. We hope everything was okay. All of that stuff is all built in and automated. You set it up once, you don't think about it. We also have just recently expanded our service to have 24/7, concierge type service, where all the phones, all the messaging is done for us. We outsource that. So now somebody calls in, they have immediate service because I run a brokerage, I have 1,000 agents and everything else. I'm not sitting there dealing with a guest that got locked out of their room for the night at 2 o'clock in the morning. It just can't do it. So we have a system for that. we wanted to take care of our neighbors even. So like we have systems in place that, if a decibel goes too loud in a particular like unit or space, it'll text me and say like, it's too loud in this space, because we have like, it doesn't record like voice or anything like that, but what it does is it just records the octaves. So it'll tell you like it's too loud in a certain space. We have everything that you can imagine. It's all systematized.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you've basically built these systems over time.
Yeah.
And now they all
No doubt.
connect and work. And this is so if somebody was getting started in this, they find the unit, they find it, the first thing that you're saying is spread across every platform. Find a tech that syncs to all those platforms, and then systematize it with the locks and the access and everything like that.
That to me is like, you're going to pay a percentage of your business towards that, but it's like a prerequisite.
It's a no-brainer.
Like I don't even know how you do it other than that.
Well, yeah, and also now, like, you don't have to be there to handle it. It's all done.
I'll tell you, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself with what I just said because I went straight into systems, but part of it is like also if you can buy scale.
Yeah.
Because if you buy one unit, like, and your return on that unit just isn't as good.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to buy systems. Like, it's hard to like hire cleaning people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be turning rooms over. Like, I don't have time for that. It's not like, that's not part of my world.
Yeah.
Like, but we have unbelievable partners, like, that they just work for us.
Yeah.
And like, they turn all the rooms over and we pay them, a good salary, and like, they're partners. They're part of the family at this point.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we could not run our business if it wasn't for those people. And it's a big deal.
That's amazing.
Shout out to Sheila and Danielle and Kristen. We have a good team.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now what's next? Where are you going with everything? I mean, you run a brokerage. You got the real estate side. You have the real estate investment side. Like, what's next?
Scale is always part of the picture.
Yeah.
Like, I think that I'm continuing to scale, and I'm, we talk about this all the time, but like just improving our systems. And, it's kind of funny, like with scale, you could look at scale in two ways. You could look at scale in terms of growth, and you could look at scale in terms of growing the amount of quality of life that you have. And, I think that both of those are important to me. Like, I'm always looking to be better than I was yesterday. And so a big part of it, it's funny, I've been in brokerage for, 20 years, and I don't think that my systems on the brokerage side are as good as my systems on the investment side. Yeah. And, and so like I'm improving those systems, and I've clearly done it at a high level. I've been very successful and everything else. So it's not like like I'm not failing, but like you could be succeeding, and it could be a painful process if you're not getting smarter along the way.
100%.
I've been very fortunate to like build and have great mentors and coaches and friends and like, people that I learn from, and my agents are amazing. My agents are the best, but and my agents, I brought them in, they're my people. Like I grew that culture, and like, so it's a very positive place. Like, I don't have any negativity going on.
I love that.
It's just like a love fest. So that energy is infectious, and it breeds like others. Like, so it's a machine now, and it builds upon itself. But I think that the first thing on scale is like, just keep improving my systems. That would be number one. Number two is I am going to continue to buy property, and, there will come a day where, I will completely surpass all brokerage income with rental properties, and quite frankly, that might be in the next couple of years. Like, and it's not because I'm failing on the brokerage side. Like, it's because, there's a lot of money to be made on the real estate investment front. And I enjoy that. And I think that like what I'm going to start building out is clusters of like different like housing in areas that I want to travel, and I want to be like, I'd like to go to like, so in retirement would be pretty cool if like every time I go around, my wife, my kids, and we like, we go to a different city. Like, if I have, the places that I love, like maybe 5-6 spots like across the US, if I have like, locations there that we've built out, well, you never have to think about housing. Like you just float around and bounce to place. You also don't have to think about home maintenance, which is such a crazy thing because people buy vacation homes, but they're always worried about maintaining it, and it becomes a burden. Like, imagine if you turn that, that location not into a burden, but into a profitable business. Like, it's just a whole different world. I mean, the other big picture, and this, is like, I love the training side. Like, I love to teach real estate. I love to help people grow and to inspire others and to, you know, and to just lead with heart.
Yeah.
And so, you know, touring, going around the
Yeah.
country, teaching real estate, like, that's always been part of my big picture vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's travel. Like, I love to travel the world.
Love it.
And by the way, I should have led with this, but I mean, I'm a dad first.
Yeah.
Like, I have 4 beautiful little girls, and, you know, that's my world. And so I think that, you know, just enjoying life with them is a big part of it.
I love that. I love that. I appreciate you so much for taking the time,
My
being
pleasure.
on. Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, of course.
And
this is part of the perks, right?
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
not a bad life we got.
It's freaking amazing. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And how do people connect with you if they need to connect with you?
Yeah, my name on Instagram is probably the easiest way. Michael Pennisi, Pennisi. It's just at Michael Pennisi. Reach out to me anytime you have a question. I can help you in any way. It would be my pleasure. Whether it's real estate investment, brokerage, or life, like, you know, anything I can do to help you. That to me is like, that's what you and I,
Yeah.
like, we're in sync on that. Like, our mission in life is just help people, and like, that's what we do.
I love it. I appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
My pleasure, brother.
Boom.